She called 911 on me because I used the wrong gas pump, the one she said was for community residents only. 10 minutes later, she was ramming her minivan through my fence, screaming that I didn't belong in her neighborhood. Yeah, that's how it started the day a woman with a clipboard and a fake sense of power decided I was the enemy. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'd just finished a long meeting downtown. Wore my best navy suit tie, loosened, tired, but in a good mood. I lived in a quiet lakeside HOA community, Lakeside Reserve, where we all paid way too much in dues for things like exclusive amenities. That included a small gas station near the clubhouse meant for residents and their guests. I'd used it before. No issues. But that day, apparently, I became a threat to the neighborhood. I was filling up my truck when I saw her platinum bob, pink blazer sunglasses that looked like she was headed to interrogate the sun. She pulled up in this dented beige minivan with a self-printed Lakeside HOA patrol sticker on the door. I remember thinking, who the hell does that? She stepped out and stared at me like I'd just dumped oil in the lake. "You don't belong here," she snapped. I blinked, confused. "Excuse me, this pump is for residents only." "I am a resident," I said, trying to stay calm. "Lot 17. She narrowed her eyes. They really let anyone in these days. I froze for a second. Anyone, I repeated, half laughing, half in disbelief. She stepped closer. "You need to leave. Now, before I call security." I could feel my pulse pick up. I pulled out my phone and hit record just in case. "Ma'am, I've lived here for 5 years. I pay HOA dues just like you." She pointed toward the clubhouse door. "You're not going in there. Pay at the pump and get out. We don't need troublemakers hanging around." That word troublemakers hit like a slap. I said quietly, "Move Karen. I've paid HOA dues longer than you've chaired it." Her face flushed red. "That's it," she hissed, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling 911. There's a trespasser threatening me at the HOA fuel dock." I looked around, 2 other residents pumping gas, one pretending not to notice, the other shaking his head slowly like, "Not again." I sighed, canceled the transaction, and got back in my truck. She was still yelling into her phone as I pulled away. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. I noticed her headlights in my rearview mirror halfway home. At first, I told myself it was a coincidence, same direction, same turn. But she followed through every intersection, every curve, right up to the cul-de-sac where my house sat by the lake. Then she parked across the street, rolled down her window, and started yelling. "He's breaking into that house. That's not his. He's a thief." I slammed the brakes and stepped out. "Karen, this is my property. You need to leave," she sneered. "You people think money buys respect. Let's see how you like it when your fancy fence is gone." Then she revved the engine and backed her minivan straight into my white picket fence. Wood splintered posts snapped. I couldn't even react before she jumped out screaming again. "He attacked me. He tried to stop my car." I dialed 911 myself, shaking from a mix of anger and disbelief. When the police arrived, she was crying, holding her phone like a lifeline. Officer I was terrified. He followed me from the gas station. He threatened me. The main officer, Miller badge number 5213, looked at me, then at my truck, then back at her. "Nice car," he said dryly, as if that explained everything. I tried to show him the video I'd recorded at the gas station. He waved me off. "We'll handle it at the station. Just cool down, all right?" Cool down, I was the one whose fence was in pieces. She was the one who rammed it. But at that moment I realized something. She wasn't just some nosy neighbor. She was the HOA president. And in this neighborhood, that title was basically a small-town crown. For 2 days, I heard nothing. Then the video I'd posted of her yelling at the gas station started blowing up online. Thousands of views. Then hundreds of thousands. HOA, Karen calls cops on homeowner for using community gas pump. The comments were wild. Some people outraged, some mocking me for playing victim. I started getting weird messages, then hate mail. And then an email from her lawyer accusing me of defamation, demanding I delete the video or face legal action. I almost did. I really did. There was a night I sat on the couch TV on mute, my hands shaking around a glass of whiskey, and I thought maybe I'd brought it on myself. Maybe I should have just driven away. Maybe standing up to her wasn't worth all this. But then my phone rang. "Is this the guy from Lakeside?" a deep voice asked. "Name's Ben. I'm a civil rights attorney. Saw your video. She's done this before, hasn't she?" I told him everything. Ben whistled low. "Yeah, we've got a pattern here. Let's fix this." Over the next few weeks, he dug deep. Found 2 other people, one delivery driver, one landscaper. Both had 911 called on them by the same woman. Both times she claimed they looked suspicious. Ben leaned back in his chair during our meeting, smiling faintly. "She's not scared, man. She's a control freak with a badge that says HOA. Time to take that badge away. We filed a lawsuit, property damage, harassment, defamation. The works. The HOA tried to distance themselves, but her title was still on every piece of letterhead. Then came deposition day. I'll never forget it. She walked in like she was still running the neighborhood hair, perfect fake smile plastered on. She looked at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. When her lawyer finished his opening, Ben slid a printed Facebook post across the table. "Mrs. Thompson, could you read this aloud?" She hesitated, then read, voice trembling. "We need to keep the neighborhood clean from undesirables." Ben leaned forward. "You wrote that right. I was referring to litter, trash. You know." "Funny," Ben said, laying down photos of her 911 reports, "because each of these undesirables was a person of color you called the cops on." Her face went white. He showed another paper, her HOA email logs. "You sent an email to the board saying, quote, 'If we don't scare them off early, they'll take over the lakefront.' Care to explain?" She tried to recover. "I was protecting our property values." Ben raised an eyebrow. "So, calling the police on homeowners protects property values." She slammed her hands on the table. "They don't belong here. This is our community." The room went silent. Her lawyer buried his face in his hands. Ben just nodded slowly. No further questions. That one outburst destroyed her case. The judge ordered her to turn over the minivan dashcam footage where she clearly reversed into my fence. When they saw that the plea deal came fast. Karen Thompson, HOA. President of Lakeside Reserve, convicted of property destruction and harassment. 6 months probation, mandatory community service, and a public apology to every resident of the HOA. Ben insisted on one more thing. "No apology, no deal," he said coldly. "She apologizes publicly, or we go to trial." They caved. A week later, the entire neighborhood got an email titled, "Official Statement from the HOA President." It read, "And I, Karen D. Thompson, admit to instigating a racially motivated harassment incident and property damage against a resident. I apologize to the homeowner and to the community." I stared at that line for a long time. It didn't feel like victory, just silence, the kind that follows a storm. A few months later, I walked into the local community center to drop off some donations. I spotted her down the hall wearing a reflective vest, scrubbing the floor. Court-ordered community service. She looked up, eyes full of venom and shame. "You ruined my life," she said quietly. I looked at her for a long moment and replied, "No." "You did?" Then I walked away. Outside, the sun was setting over the lake light, glinting off the new fence I'd rebuilt myself. Stronger this time. Higher. Whiter. And for the first time in months, I finally breathed easy. Because in neighborhoods like ours, where power hides behind clipboards and petty rules, sometimes you've got to fight for the right just to exist.